Howdy, y'alls. It's me, Dr. Edwards, and I wanted to put together a little video to kind of introduce our course and kind of give you some insights in our first week's readings. Got a bit of them. And don't skimp. This is much needed reading material. So every week I'm going to have a posted lecture, which you should read, and I'll have a video to go with it to offer extra insights. So I want to start this one off with just kind of questioning our title of our course, Human Adaptive Strategies. Right? What is this? All right. Well, in a nutshell, an adaptive strategy can be anything that people do to help sustain themselves, right? To support themselves. And interestingly, we can think of biological adaptations and cultural adaptations, right? And these are going to be kind of two perspectives that we're going to be wanting to use. This biological or ecological and cultural. So when you think about human adaptations or human adaptive strategies, better put, these are all the different ways that people support themselves through history, all right? And that's actually one of the key things that this week's readings really interrogates. It looks at human history and the associations or correlations of resource exploitation, all right, and population growth. Those are kind of two big things, right? But, to kind of put it in more basic terms, everyone needs some way to sustain themselves, all right? I sit here and I sell my mental labor, to earn a paycheck, to go buy food from the store that I put on the table, and then I eat. So food, that's kind of a key thing. Shelter, got to pay rent, all right, for the roof above my head, and clothes. All right, these are all kind of basic, fundamental human needs that have existed since people have. All right. Now, what's really interesting is the various ways that we go about achieving those things. All right. And any strategy, all right, will have consequences. All right. Consequence doesn't necessarily mean negative, but as you've read this week. Population growth and limited resources results in really catastrophic situations, all right? And if you check out the graph that's in this week's lecture, it highlights this very well, all right? You can actually track each one of those key topics that's brought up in the readings, particularly in Caton. So, speaking of Caton, let's see here. Some good things to take note on. I really like his use of the term diachronic competition, all right? And that's well-being at the expense of future generations, right? And the way he lays it out is really cool because he's explaining that you're essentially robbing future generations by using resources or overexploiting resources today, right? And that this has kind of a compound interest effect. It keeps accumulating, right? This deficit. It overburdens the carrying capacity, right? So yeah, this whole notion of exceeding carrying capacity is really important. The ground, the environment, the ecology can only support so much, and it's important to keep in mind that people are not separate from the environment, right? This is a pretty common assumption that people are somehow separated. Maybe that's a reflection of our modern lifestyle. We build boxes around ourselves and put a roof on it and call it a house, all right? And we do everything we can to separate ourselves from nature, okay? But this is really a skewed way of looking at things. People are fundamentally a critter. Okay, we are a biological being, We are a species, Homo sapiens sapiens, right? And we are no different. Well, we are different in many ways. We have culture and things like that. But biologically speaking, no, we're just another organism that's trying to eke out an existence. So it's really important to think of people not being separated from the environment, but being a part of the environment. They are an integral species, all right? And just like a biologist might go study, I'm trying to think of an example offhand. I don't know, snowy owls in the Pacific Northwest and their place in the local ecology and in the biome. Well, that's kind of how we need to look at people. And we're such a adaptive species. We have proliferated at an incredible rate and have spread to every biome on the face of the earth. The only really exceptions are, nobody really lives at the Arctic Circle or the Antarctic. We have some scientific stations and stuff there, but people don't really live there. But just south of the Arctic Circle, yeah, fair game. And we are very, very good at finding ways to sustain ourselves in these different environments. And depending on the environment, you might use a particular strategy. Let me share a little bit of some of my background. Where I used to work in West Africa, it is largely agricultural. And not industrial agriculture, right? This is hand agriculture, labor intensive. Okay, so one of the adaptive strategies that we see there is polygyny, right? Having multiple wives. Well, what does multiple wives have to do with agriculture? Everything. Having multiple wives means you can produce more kids, which means more hands to work the fields, right? And you're going to want some of those kids to look after you in your old age too. So there's this constant push for production, all right, to make land productive to sustain human populations, all right? Now, when we're talking small populations, that can be relatively sustainable. In fact, for hundreds of thousands of years, populations were small enough that they did not exceed the carrying capacity of the land. However, in our readings, you will learn that there's kind of been some key developments, all right? The agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution. These have created systems that were essentially robbing the future, all right? Some other key things that I really like that Caton brings up is, he talks about the history of colonization, European colonization. And this dovetails nicely with Diamond. Was it Yali's question about how Europeans have so much cargo and how come New Guineans don't? A superficial answer is all about power dynamics, but if you look at history, it's all about who took what land and what they did to it, right? Just look at the New World. All right, so we had European colonization. It's a myth that it was unpopulated. There was plenty of folks living here already, and the land was considered a resource to be exploited, not a environment in which to situate oneself in. One of my favorite examples is within our own national history. The term manifest destiny, all right? This is a great one because manifest destiny is you are manifesting your destiny. And one of the key things that a person had to do that was go get land and make that land productive, all right? This whole notion of production is essential, and we are using resources, fossil fuels, right? That were essentially created millions and millions of years ago, and they're limited and they're non-renewable. Okay, so real easy. If you're even at a constant level, you're using fossil fuels, all right, they're gonna run out at a certain time. Now you add population to that, and consumption goes up, and it ends faster. They're not hard concepts, but I think you'll like what Caton and Diamond have to say on these issues. Kind of looking up for my notes here. We can make sure there's give a good thorough going over of Diamond's up to the starting line, right? He gives a really nice overview of these kind of key transitions in history, and they dovetail quite nicely with what Caton outlines. So be sure to read the rest of the lecture that I have written on out here. Don't hesitate with any questions or concerns, right? You got my email, my phone number. I am at your disposal, right? And I'm really looking forward to your all's first, your introductions in the introductory discussion forum. Introduce yourselves, who you are, where you're from, what you're doing, why you're taking this class, things like that. But your first real week, your first real discussion of your questions, right? These are going to be reflective of the depth to which you have read this week's readings, right? You can't go too deep, okay? Don't gloss it. Don't skim it. Don't give me fluff, right? But the deeper you sink your teeth into it, the better of a question you're going to be able to create and share and create dialogue, which is the whole goal of the discussion. So that's where I'll leave this video, and I'll see you in the discussion boards. Take care.